to the video F of session 10, a continuation of the details of the 11 INCOTERMS. We are on FOB, free on board. FOB stands for free on board, and it must have a named port of shipment on a contract of sale. FOB means seller delivers goods to the buyer on board the vessel nominated by buyer at the named port of shipment on the agreed or within agreed period in the manner customary to the port formalities, or procures goods already so delivered. Under FOB, seller must clear goods for export but has no obligation to clear for import. Buyer must contract for carriage from the named port of shipment and provide insurance cover against loss or damage to goods. Where applicable, seller must pay for export clearance, security clearance, pre-shipment, and official authorizations. That's for free on board. CFR, cost and freight, at named port of destination. CFR means seller delivers to buyer on board a vessel at the port of shipment on the agreed date or within the period. Under CFR, seller must contract for carriage at the agreed point of delivery at the seller's cost in the normal vessel for the type of goods on usual terms and route. Seller must also clear goods for export and pay for export license, security clearance, pre-shipment inspection, and any official authorizations, or procure the goods already so delivered. CIF, cost, insurance, and freight at named port of destination. CIF means seller delivers goods to seller delivers goods to buyer on board the vessel at the port of shipment on the agreed date or within the period. Under CIF, seller must contract for carriage at the agreed point of delivery at the seller's cost in a normal vessel for type of goods on usual terms and route. Seller must clear goods for export and pay for export license, security clearance, pre-shipment inspection, and any official authorizations, or procure the goods already so delivered. Seller must obtain cargo insurance cover from point of shipment to destination to comply with the Institute Cargo Clauses C of LMA or IUA or any insurance company of repute, except otherwise agreed or contrary to prohibitions of the destination country. Seller must provide buyer with transport document that will enable him or her claim goods from carrier at the point of destination. There are a few things to remember when you are advising on INCOTERMS. Where export documents are difficult to obtain, it is appropriate to use free carrier, the FCA, instead of ex-works. When two or more modes of transport are required for carriage, instead of CFR, you may use carriage paid to avoid ambiguity of point of delivery. When two or more modes of transport are required for carriage, instead of CIF, cost, insurance, and freight, it is advisable to use costs and insurance paid to. This will help to avoid ambiguity of place or exact point of delivery or transfer of risk. Sellers should remember to arrange for unloading when using delivered at place and delivered duty paid at place or point of delivery. For ex-works, buyer must agree on and notify seller. For free carrier, seller and buyer must agree on exact point of delivery. There are certain cost implications at destination depending on the Incoterms selected. For CPT, CIP, DAP, and DDP, seller has to cover cost of unloading at destination or delivery point or place. There may be double billing of handling charges here if care is not taken. And for FAS, CFR, CIF, and DPU, buyer has to cover the cost of unloading at the destination point or delivery point. Freight forwarders must check contract of affreightment to avoid double billing. Other implications for the F terms. Forwarder has to provide notices of nominated vessel, the berthing place, and appropriate time when cargo is called forward. Now, cost for advice and information regarding export-import documentation and custom procedures are now included. So, this must be taken full notice of. In the 2010, it was not very clear whether these services or the cost of services have to be paid. Now, there is clarification that there may be costs accrued to such services being delivered, and it has to be accounted, or they all have to be accounted for. Risk control measures. All transport regimes contain rules concerning the carrier's liability for loss or damage while the goods are in the custody of the carrier. It should, however, be understood that carriers are not always liable for loss or damage to goods in their custody. And again, even in the case where they have been found liable, carriers can limit their liability. The best option for a cargo owner, therefore, is to procure insurance to cover the goods and claim from the insurer in case of loss or damage. Then leave the insurer to make a subrogated claim against the carrier. For string sales, the 2020 covers it clearly. In contracts for the sale of commodities such as opposed to manufactured goods, it is often the case that a cargo is sold a number of times during transit, which is what we call a string sale. I repeat, in contract for the sale of commodities as opposed to manufactured goods, it is often the case that a cargo is unsold a number of times during transit. In such situations, sellers in the middle of the string do not ship the goods as the goods have already been shipped by the seller at the top of the string. As such, the obligation of the seller in the middle of the string is to procure goods that have been shipped. The new Incoterms clarify this by reference to by procuring goods for so delivered. Cautions with variants of the rules. In fact, all intended alterations to the Incoterms 2020 rules must be stated clearly in the contract of sales to avoid unwelcome misunderstanding and expenses. In fact, this brings us to the end of session 10 and most of the things we need to cover under Incoterms 2020 rules. I will arrange for a case study to either be done in groups of your own choice, and the case study questions will be posted on the portal. Thank you.